Video games are kind of amazing in the way that they can really make you feel like you're living in a different world or exploring some foreign space planet, or, maybe just hanging out in this really cool spiritual plains village thing on like the top of these 1,000 feet tall bluffs, and like you can see down below. The ability for games to let the player in on completely different atmospheres is one of the biggest factors in why I love video games as a medium. It's like you get to move around and take place in your favorite piece of art or painting, but it's also sometimes in full 3D and you can look around at like whatever you really want. And most likely, the developers of the game put those things you're looking at in the spots that they did to make you feel a certain way, and it's like, holy shit, video games are fucking crazy. Just look at this place, dude. I want to live here right now. These feelings, or vibes, as we will call them, can vary so drastically from game to game or even within the same game. You have so many options, right? Maybe you want to feel the carefree joy and freedom of driving around Mexico in Forza 5. And also maybe a little bit of this. Or maybe you just want to relax and hang out in the peaceful vibes of your Animal Crossing village. That game is the definition of a game all about the vibes, and it lets you choose the feel of your island depending on what you want. I have seen some crazy island designs, and they can all feel so different from each other based on how people decide to populate the game's items around. One of my personal favorite places to just sit in and kind of take in the vibes of the game on my island is this little chunk of land that sticks out a bit into the sea. It's really simple, and that's kind of what makes it great. It also helps that this spot is really far away from Renee. God. Renee sucks. She stinks, and she's like just a horse girl made into a character. Sorry, Renee fans. I know it's a pretty common thing to do in Animal Crossing where you just kind of go sit in a certain area of the island and just soak everything in, but I actually kind of do that a lot in a lot of games. A more recent example of this was when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima and I got to the Hiyoshi Springs village. The village has this really cool stream and hot springs that kind of run through the city, and there's this really cozy lodge in the middle, and it's so peaceful that I just have to sit there and let Jin take all this in before continuing in the game. And most of the time, the game doesn't even need to be something this graphically intensive. It's amazing how just about anything, even like really low quality assets from the N64 or pixel-based games, can create such amazing atmosphere when combined with good lighting and some great music and sounds. I think 2D sprite-based games are a really good example here though, because even with the limited hardware, you can still make out what the feel of certain places are. When you walked into Ecruteak City as a kid and were instantly hit with the town theme, mixed with seeing the old style of wooden buildings compared to the busy city that you just came from, it's really just a completely different vibe. You can almost feel the history the city has within the world, and it creates this image in your mind that's really greater than what can be displayed on the screen. I used Pokemon as an example here because I think it's a great showcase of just how important vibes are in games. Many of the locations in Pokemon have completely different vibes from town to town, or even route to route, and it's probably one of the biggest reason it actually feels like you're going on an adventure within the game. Pokemon is an interesting example of this as well because, the games aren't really anything special in the gameplay department, but what really gives that series life is the atmosphere around it. Vibes are what sold the series to me as a kid, and the way those games incorporate lots of history and mythology in their worlds in tandem with the craze in real life at that time, having kids talk about places in the game with their imagination running wild, being fueled by what was shown on the tiny screen that they played, it really elevated the series. Alright, enough with that little boo-boo baby Pokemon game, alright? We're talking about a big boy game next. Yeah. That's right. Fucking Mario Kart. Okay, so here's the thing. When I'm talking about vibes, I don't just mean the in-game elements that help to create the atmosphere, like the lighting or the music. Those are really important and are probably the biggest factor in establishing vibe. But I also think the way we perceive the atmosphere in the game matters a lot. I can give some examples of this if that doesn't really make sense, right? So let's use Mario Kart as a reference. It's got a ton of these courses, and there's lots of good vibes going on within these tracks. Some standouts for me, of course, Wildwoods, DK Jungle, Mount Wario. That shit's awesome. I love skiing, and the vibes of the mountain are great. Just look how happy these toads are. The thing is, though, there are some levels I don't immediately feel like I would like the vibe of the course, but I kind of end up liking it anyway. Let's take Moo Moo Meadows, for example. In real life, unlike skiing and snowy mountains, which are cool and awesome to me, I don't really like the vibe of farms and farmland and shit. Farms just kind of remind me of driving around in the Midwest with really nothing in sight. It's very bland, and biggest one of all, unfortunately, my kind of racist grandparents who lived near farms their whole life, so you can see why I might not vibe with that too much. But get this, Moo Moo Meadows is still fucking sick. I think the way this course treats its farm vibes overrules my no like farm stuff part of my brain, and I end up thinking that this is kind of a pretty great track. The course has these little moles that pop out of the ground that are awesome. All the cows are smiling, and it's really cheerful. And the way this map just kind of sends nostalgic waves to my brain with memories of the original Moo Moo farm on the N64, but like captured in this new and upgraded style, really helped me consider this level to have good vibes, even if I don't like the laid out farm vibes at first glance. What I'm trying to say here is that you can vibe with certain levels or areas in games differently depending on what out-of-game experiences you associate with the atmosphere the level is establishing. This is why many people have different preferences in games and what they like in them, and I just think it's really cool to talk about why certain places in games end up vibing with certain people. It's also just important for a game to get the vibes right. It's something that's going to help leave a lasting impression on those who've played it, and it helps give the sense that the devs truly cared and understood what was needed to give certain places that extra special feel. It's the difference between your general new Super Mario Bros. U level compared to the standard Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze one. You can kind of just feel when a game gets the vibe right. Yeah, the way that in Donkey Kong, the levels are platforms and obstacles that consist of grounded elements from in the game world, like jumping on the blades of a windmill help, along with, the more detailed background environments, maybe character expressions and the sound, etc. But the way it all just comes together in all the right ways is really the difference maker. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but if I think there's anything you should walk away from this video with, it's that video games are fucking amazing, and maybe sometimes just set the controller down, look around for a bit, and really take it all in.